Putin knows what he wants. But why does he want it? And will he get it? Hi, I'm Yasmin Khan. I'm the host of the Global Thread podcast. Thank you for being here.
Russia is expanding its vast troop deployments around Ukraine, the Kremlin adding forces on all fronts.
Do you realistically think there is still a path to diplomacy? Because we still see these leaders talking, and yet we see the Russian troops continue to amass along the Ukrainian border.
Kristen, I do think there's still a chance for diplomacy, for negotiations. It is, of course, up to President Putin. As Secretary Blinken just said, he's got a choice. He can either negotiate or he can invade. If he invades, the costs will be very high in all kinds of ways. But there is a negotiated outcome, solution that he could take. And the idea is to deter him from making a bad decision to invade and to encourage him to making the right decision to negotiate.
A former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine says that there is still hope for diplomacy in regards to whether or not Russia decides to invade Ukraine again. Others are less optimistic, though, with some sources reporting that we can expect to see some kind of action on the Russian-Ukrainian front by mid-February, which, by the way, is next week. Putin has been moving his troops to the Ukrainian border for the past year, all the while issuing statements that he does not plan on invading Ukraine. But then, with his troops firmly in place, Putin issued a list of demands to the US and NATO member nations. Here were his demands. Number 1, no new NATO members. Putin wants guarantees that Ukraine will never join NATO. Problem is, that's not his call to make at all. Number 2, troop withdrawal. Putin wants NATO to withdraw whatever troops they have in Eastern European countries, specifically those that were once a part of the Warsaw Pact. And number 3, no nukes. He wants the US to promise not to defend any of our Eastern European allies with nuclear power. Obviously, those are kind of insane demands. He even said that he wanted his demands to be met, quote, right away, right now. But it doesn't really matter how insane they are. Putin definitely knows that he's going to get pushback. His first 2 demands were recently rejected by the US and NATO on the grounds that should NATO comply, Russia would also have to promise not to do certain things, like invade Ukraine. However, the no nuke part seems to be a little more negotiable, again, provided that Russia also agrees to not use nukes. And that's part of what this is all about. Putin doesn't want any more NATO missiles any closer to him than they already are, which is why he doesn't want any more Eastern European countries joining NATO. It also makes sense that he's wary of NATO. The whole alliance came about in the first place during the Cold War with the express intent of hindering Soviet aggression. But the Soviet Union isn't even a thing anymore. It hasn't been since the 1990s. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine became an independent nation, much to Russia's chagrin. And Putin never really got over the collapse of the USSR. He has been known to harbor ambitions of reuniting the once great empire. Ukraine in particular, though, more than all the other old USSR nations, has been referred to as something like Russia's one that got away. The border between Russia and Ukraine is kind of arbitrary. Culturally, the two countries are very, very similar. In fact, the earliest version of what we know today as Russia started in modern-day Ukraine, not modern-day Russia. Some feel that Ukraine never should have been made an independent nation in the first place. It was always supposed to be Russian. But would it even be worth it for Putin to invade Ukraine right now? Probably not. Deaths on both sides would be astronomical. Putin can't really afford to lose that many people on either side, and the presumption is that that statement of fact alone is probably enough to prevent him from actually invading Ukraine. But speaking of what he can't afford, Russia right now is not doing great economically. There's a lot of debate as to whether or not Russia can afford to spend all this money on a military campaign while its own country is suffering. The idea is that he could be reinvesting that money back into Russia and getting it back up on its own feet. And then Ukraine itself is not exactly a catch. First of all, many experts don't even think that Russia can take Ukraine, at least not without suffering more crippling losses, which again, they can't really afford. But even if Russia did take it, he's not really inheriting much. Ukraine has the worst economy in Europe right now. It has poor infrastructure, it's rife with corruption, it doesn't have a lot of natural resources, and the Ukrainian people don't want to be a part of Russia. But maybe Putin isn't looking to inherit anything at all. He's merely trying to reestablish the buffer zone that he had between himself and the West. So what does Putin want? He wants Ukraine, and if he can't have it, none of us can.